The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
It is time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. It's time. Say it with me. It is time for Bernie Sanders to lock up these primaries and to destroy Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, the reason I'm approaching it this way is because I need you to understand Donald Trump's base is so excited about him. They are so motivated by Donald Trump. They think that Donald Trump is sent by God. They honestly believe that he is ordained by God to deliver the prophecy of Trump. There's a movie called The Prophecy of Trump, the Trump prophecy. They are so excited about the work that Donald Trump is doing. The very things that we see as evil, they see as good. And they are going to come out like we have never seen before and vote for Donald Trump. They are going to be just as excited. They're going to consider it their own revolution. They are the complete antithesis of everything that we stand for, but they believe that they are right and we are wrong. As wrong as we know them to be, they believe that they are right and believe that we are wrong. And they are going to show up accordingly on election day. Now, you tell me who amongst that group of candidates has the momentum necessary to beat Donald Trump. With one exception, one important exception. The same exception that I talked about in 2015, the same exception that my sister Noah Changa talks about all the time, the same exception that many of the black organizers who worked and were excited about Bernie Sanders in 2016 became disillusioned because the campaign did not recognize what they were saying. The campaign did not do what they had to do. And that is the black vote. We'll talk about commentators who want to tell you that identity politics don't matter. Mighty easy to say when you're a white dude, when you're a straight white dude. I'll talk about that on the B side. But right now I have to convey to you the urgency. Donald Trump has never, according to Axios.com, Donald Trump has never dropped below 79% amongst the Republican Party. After everything that he has done, he's never dropped below 79%. And they are using the impeachment, which absolutely 100% needed to be done. But they are using this to solidify the Republican Party vote even more. This should not be a surprise. And this does not mean that the impeachment proceedings should not have begun. They should have, because it is their constitutional duty. But just understand that we're dealing with people who believe that evil is good. They believe that the caging of children at the border is a good thing. They believe that Donald Trump's appeal and to white supremacy is a good thing. They believe in the cruelty of Donald Trump. They love it. They revel in it. They get joy. Some of them get physical pleasure from the evil things that Donald Trump does. So I just need you to understand that we are not, this is not going to be any type of normal. This is a new day. The politics of this country are going to fundamentally change in one direction or the other. And we cannot afford to let somebody go up against Donald Trump who cannot mobilize the countervailing force to their energized evil. I mean, they honestly believe that Donald Trump has been sent by Jesus to protect capitalism and to protect the borders and to put black people in their places and to protect marriage, the sanctity of marriage. They are going to be going out and voting with all of the energy and fervor and tenacity and excitement that you will be going out to vote for Bernie Sanders. And if Bernie Sanders has not tapped in to an authentic and organic connection with the black community, there goes the entire election. And it won't be the fault of the black folks who don't vote for him. No, it won't be. It'll be the fault of all the white folks who look at Donald Trump and say, I like his type of racism. This is the type of racism that I enjoy. And went out and voted for him. And I often think about all of the people who don't vote. There are layers to this. Of course, Bernie Sanders is doing good with black millennials and black Generation Zers. Zoomers, I guess is what we're calling them. He's doing fine with them, but that's not enough. That's not enough for the primaries, and it's certainly not enough for the general election, because Donald Trump has a coalition that is going to march to the polls with the same sense of moral justification and fortitude as anyone else has ever voted. So we have to form a new electorate. And that new electorate has to include people who didn't even vote for Barack Obama. Black people who didn't even vote for Barack Obama. All of the people who are apathetic intentionally and almost justifiably apathetic based on their own assessment about this political system never doing anything for them. There are millions of people who believe that this system has never done anything for them, and they're right. This system has done nothing but taken from all of us. And some of us are just, we have been voting for harm reduction. And that's what we've been doing. But has the system ever done something for us the way we did for the banks in the bailout of 2008? And so there are a lot of people, not just black people, but I can't tell you, I could probably postulate how to reach an apathetic white voter. But I can tell you exactly, and we have been trying to tell you exactly how it is that Bernie Sanders can connect and motivate and inspire above and beyond his regular rhetoric. And that's the thing that I think was so frustrating for people who worked for Sanders before. It's not that it's going to take a lot of effort. It's just going to take some effort. And when part of the benefit of Bernie Sanders is his stubbornness, and he's been talking the same message for 40 years, but that's also part of the problem. Not being able to finesse his language, and so it is not weaponized against him and downright offensive in some cases. Just the slightest tweaks. And what I'm getting ready to say to you, yes, I said this 5 years ago. I said this 4 years ago, going on 5 years ago, about how to reach and win the black vote, and how Bernie Sanders is uniquely fit to do that, right? Not just millennials and Zoomers, but I'm talking about Bernie Sanders can 100% connect with baby boomers, black boomers. He can. I've talked about it. But it's not just me who's talked about it. There's a list of people that I know personally who worked for the campaign and offered these solutions and these remedies, and they weren't taken up. And we're at critical mass now. We're at the critical juncture. We're past the Rubicon. Here we are at a turning point in American history. And all that has to be done is Bernie Sanders go out there and get the black vote. Not just establishment black folks. You can get them. We could show you how. Not just millennials and Zoomers. You got them. Keep them. Great. But I'm talking about those revolutionary Negroes who don't really mess with any of this system, because this system has never done anything for them, and they're rightfully upset and think that nothing's going to change. Talk to them. Communicate with them in an authentic, organic fashion. And then, oh my God, for the love of God, you better deliver like sweet sassafras. Don't make a promise you can't keep. But communicate your promises to them authentically, organically, at the grassroots level. Trust the organizers that are on the ground in all of these cities. You have organizers that believe in Sanders, that are ready to do the work. But if Sanders' team does not put the money, don't ask us to do anything for free. Hell, I'm the only one out here doing shit for free, giving you this free advice. Send me a check. But don't ask organizers on the ground who have to pay, don't ask them to sacrifice for free when you're putting millions of dollars everywhere else. And I'm not just pulling this out of whole cloth. I'm not pulling this out of thin air. I'm pulling this directly from black organizers and, top level people who worked with Sanders in 2016. Personal relationships that I have and had conversations with them. These are the things that if we can get him to change and focus like a laser on galvanizing the black vote in every single state, but particularly the swing states where the data just came out in a head-to-head matchup. Trump wins a couple of swing states, and I think Sanders wins like one or two. Warren loses more. Biden is the only one who has an edge against against Donald Trump. And the problem is that's deceitful. Not on purpose. It actually makes perfect sense. If you think about it, right now, people are still trusting that Joe Biden is the guy that can beat Donald Trump. And it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy during the primaries that will not be fulfilled during the general election. What do I mean? In the primaries, it will become a self-defeating and self-fulfilling prophecy that Joe Biden will win some of these states, particularly in the South, namely South Carolina. But when it comes to election day, Joe Biden is not going to motivate the mass movement that is going to be necessary to fight back against the evil that is coming from the Republican Party. And I have no problem using the moralistic language when you honestly sit down and look at what they're trying to do to society. You can't call it anything else. The cruelty is the point. But the primaries right now, I've been telling you guys, and I swear to God, we've got to get this right because we are at a critical juncture. We are at a critical juncture where the world could change for the better like we have never seen, or we can continue to drive ourselves into the abyss of a right-wing dystopia for another 4 years. And all that's standing in the way between those two different futures, those two different paths, is whether or not Bernie Sanders' team and Sanders himself will do what is necessary to not just win the black vote, but to inspire the black vote. From boomers to zoomers, from atheists to the religious, from politically established to people who have been politically apathetic because they have not seen this system serve them. Of course, this is a thing. This is what he should be doing across the board. And that's the thing. In a way, this is what he's doing with with white progressives. But he has not taken the concerted effort and the advice. And I hope that he will. I hope that it will because Warren's not. I don't think Warren. Even if Warren could beat Sanders, beat Trump, I don't believe that she's going to do the things that we need done. I no longer believe that. Buttigieg is not going to beat Trump simply because he's an empty suit. Biden is not going to beat Trump because he's well past his prime, and he should have grown up on a diet of McDonald's like Donald Trump because he just is not as sharp as Donald Trump, and he's an empty suit policy wise. And none of them, simply put, none of them are going to motivate the masses to come out. All right, we're going to breathe for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to tell you what we have to do. Specific things that we have to do, that Sanders has to do, that Sanders is going to have to put money behind. If you're not going to put money behind it, forget about it. If your team, if the people who surround you are going to clutch those dollars and not release those dollars to do the work, because they're more. I gotta say this. There are people who are on Sanders' team, just like anyone else's team, who are there for their own personal check. And if those people who are generally in high positions in every campaign, this is not unique to Sanders, but if those people who hold the money bag do not allow those dollars to go down to local grassroots organizing in communities of color, particularly the black community, then all of this is for naught. And they would have made their money and they would be fine while Donald Trump serves a second term.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
I'll thank my patrons later. We have to keep rocking. I need you to understand the black community is not a monolith by any measure. But in this race against Donald Trump, you can honestly run up the scoreboard with a higher level of participation from black people, even greater than we saw for Obama. And you can do so specifically and only with Bernie Sanders. And here's how and why. Or rather, here's why and then the how. There has, and I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it again. I'm not the only one who says this, but it bears repeating. The revolutionary spirit in the black community, we fundamentally understand that there is a problem with capitalism in America. The Black Panther Party for self-defense, socialist organization that understood that if we're going to address the issues of the black community, we have to talk about capitalism. There is a revolutionary vanguard spirit, even if it's not there organized in actuality. There is a revolutionary spirit that has been that damn near is in the DNA of the black community because it has had to be. And I don't care if you're talking about black agnostics, black atheists, or black Christians, or black Muslims for that matter. All of us intersect on that revolutionary spirit, with the smallest percentage who reject it. I mean, the smallest percentage who reject it. So by default, Bernie Sanders has an advantage with how he can connect to the revolutionary spirit in the black community because he's the only candidate who is remotely close to being as revolutionary as black folks are in our soul. We understand. We participate in this system just like everyone else because we're not going to be the fools who run out in front of a new revolution only to get shot down. So we participate in this system just like everyone else, but in our blood, in our DNA, we understand how slavery was not just a racist institution, but it was a capitalistic institution. And if we don't have that in the forefront of our memories, how wonderful would it be to have a presidential candidate come to every single black pulpit that he could possibly get into, every single black barbershop that he could possibly go by, every single beauty salon, every single HBCU, and talk that revolutionary shit and communicate it. Listen, when you come to my house, there's more going on in my life than police brutality, housing, and all of the bottom tier. When I say bottom tier, I mean the issues that are like the worst of our problems. There's more going on in our lives. So when you come to my house, don't just talk to me about the things that are happening in the worst scenarios. Inspire me about the potential of a future that is revolutionary. Do you understand what I'm saying? The difference? Because one thing that Bernie Sanders continuously gets wrong is that when he speaks about the black community, he generally speaks about it from the worst perspective on our worst day. Everybody has a worst day. Just think about it like this. What if somebody came to you to discuss your future and all they talked about was your very worst moment? So you can't just come to us and talk about slavery. You can't just come to us and talk about police brutality. You can't, but you can use those issues to catapult and pivot and discuss a revolutionary future based on addressing the issues that were brought about by those systems. I'm going to intentionally take my time on this because I need to make it crystal clear. It is the preciseness of the language when talking to the black community that has been the bane of Bernie Sanders' approach to them. I mean, that's literally the preciseness or the impreciseness of his language. And it matters. You may not, I personally, if you feel like it doesn't matter and you're irritated by this conversation, then you are contributing to the rise of Trump and you are contributing to Bernie Sanders not winning. Because I'm tired of people, you don't permit, you do not permit, I'm talking to the supporters now. I'm not even talking to the Bernie Sanders campaign. I'm talking to the Bernie supporters. You will not for a second permit a single candidate to misspeak about Medicare for all without you going ham, without you losing it. And quite right. I'm not saying that as a criticism of you. I'm just letting you know that that's how you approach it. So now let's juxtapose. Now you don't see the importance of having precise language when addressing an entire block of constituents. It is vitally important that he get the language precisely correct and not make unforced errors, because we need him to win the black vote. We need him to win it because nobody else in this entire pool of candidates are going to remotely bring something, one, that motivates people enough to get Donald Trump out of office, but two, can actually materially change the lives of every person in this nation. Well, but Bernie Sanders doesn't support reparations. No, he doesn't. And we have to address that. And I have addressed that, and I'll continue to address that, particularly how he falls prey to that tool being used as a weapon against them when other politicians are not held to the same standard. But even despite that weaponization of reparations, I need him not to be a stubborn ass old white man not willing to change his position on an issue. Sorry. It matters. It matters. And no matter how much you, the supporter of Bernie Sanders, tries to convince yourself that it shouldn't matter, it does matter. And just continuously remind yourself of how you go absolutely ballistic on politicians who don't get it right on issues like canceling the student debt. If somebody dares say access to health care, you, quite right, go ballistic. So keep in mind that his language on issue-specific, constituent-specific issues matters. Continuing on, I guess I'm going to talk about this until I'm done talking about it. I need to see. I honestly don't understand why on a regular basis I do not see videos of Bernie Sanders speaking truth to power from the pulpit of black churches. The pulpit of black churches have always been a platform for politicians. Always has been. Now you tell me, which politician running for office right now is closest to the spirit of Jeremiah Wright? Which one? Who can dare? Which politician can remotely get into the pulpit? Which Democratic candidate right now can get into the pulpit of a black church and speak with the fierceness remotely comparable to that of Jeremiah Wright. Because I can tell you this, Jeremiah Wright, no, there's no qualifier here. If Jeremiah, take that message and put that in any black church, that is a political revolutionary message. And every single black church across this country, with very few exceptions for those conservative prosperity gospel preachers who are lapdogging for Donald Trump, which might be like 5 churches. But everywhere else, that revolutionary message, that liberation message that Jeremiah Wright spoke out about American imperialism, spoke out against capitalism, that resonates in the blood of every black person in this country. Those that go to church and those that don't go to church, fine. Don't speak in a religious jargon. But Bernie can speak authentically. He has the potential to speak authentically to all black audiences. There has to be the intention, an intentional push to do so, and to do so with precise language by listening to the black organizers and staffers who have been trying to tell him this for years now. I think the real question is the real question underneath it is, why haven't they acted on this? I'm not ready to discuss that any further than I already have, because all I have is the information from all I know is what the black staffers have told me. As to why, I think most of us, they're probably all flabbergasted too. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. It's a natural fit. That's a natural fit. I mean, all Sanders really has to do, come on. It's not that it's easy, because I've seen so many politicians fail at it. They get into a black pulpit, or they can't even go to a barbershop. Like, can you imagine somebody like Amy Klobuchar or Pete Buttigieg trying to connect with black folks? You know, they'll put on their little fake accent like Hillary Clinton and say a scripture. No, hell, Buttigieg won't even go to a black church because he's too busy thinking we don't like him because he's gay. Nah, bruh, we don't like you because your politics suck. But just think about, and yes, the black church absolutely matters, because it is the centerpiece of the black community still to this day in 2019. If you want to change that, fine, go ahead and work on that, but it ain't going to change before this next election. And unless Bernie Sanders goes ahead and stops like teeter-tottering, like almost ready to talk, almost ready to connect with the black community, almost ready to stop making these unforced errors, almost ready to change his perspective ever so slightly so that it can actually resonate with black folks like never before, then we're going to be stuck with Donald Trump for another 4 years. Because we have to build a new coalition. This is why it matters. There are so many millions of people who are not politically active and they are actively apathetic. They have made the conscious decision that the system has done nothing for them. Therefore, they should not participate in this system. I happen to disagree, but that is their logic, and it's not particularly flawed. The system has done nothing for them. And now we have a candidate who actually can do something for wants to do something for every single American. And yet he's not communicating that message in the black community in a way that he can absolutely, it's like sitting back and seeing someone have the full potential to be, I don't know, a superstar. Like, can you imagine being friends with someone who literally had every component necessary for them to be an amazing success, and yet they just sit on the sideline because for whatever reason, they're not going to change their mind about their approach? And you know when this matters even more so than just the general election? Right damn now. Right now is where the black vote makes all the difference for Bernie Sanders. It's the difference between him crushing Joe Biden and coming either tied or second place to Joe Biden. With all of his organizing efforts, with all of the stuff that Bernie Sanders does right, the difference is the black vote. Particularly in the South. And we saw this play. I don't have to, I honestly, at this point, I should not have to explain this because we saw it play out in 2016. And we're going to see it play out again. If his team does not start putting their resources, their time, I mean, not just surrogates. Nina is boss. Nina Turner is a boss. But not just surrogates. Him. And for him to get the language right and for him to communicate it precisely off the cuff. Like when he has to improvise, impromptu speaking about the black community. Man. Am I making sense? Is this making sense to you? Because there's really literally no reason why Joe Biden should even be in this conversation anymore. And Pete Buttigieg is creating the exact conditions necessary for Donald Trump to be reelected because now his solution is, oh, the black folks don't like me because I'm gay. My dude, black folks are gay too. I mean, but he's creating a situation where now, before the election even gets here, we're being blamed. And don't you know, we will look at his mediocre Mayo ass and say, all right, champ, we're just going to stay home. Especially if that dude gets the nomination for some ungodly, unforeseen reason. But I'm just saying, like, this time, it is time. It is time. There's no reason whatsoever for us to be wondering whether or not Sanders is going to get the nomination. And it's critical. Listen, the last but not least reason that I'm going all in for Sanders now at this juncture. Oh, my music just dropped. Oh, that's probably the blackest moment you're going to ever get for free on this show. Stop the music. But the reason I'm going all in for Sanders at this juncture is because it's time. We cannot play with Donald Trump for another 4 years. There's no other candidate that has a movement that is solidified, that is ready to take on Donald Trump. And the difference between Bernie Sanders getting the nomination and Bernie Sanders winning the general election is whether or not he has the black vote. Actually, let me be more precise, whether or not he has earned and inspired and galvanized the black vote in a way that he can uniquely do that no other candidate can do. Does that make sense? And it's like, I hate to see him sitting on the sideline teeter-tottering when he can legitimately speak in a language, an authentic language that resonates with the black community. Save his unforced errors and save always reducing his communication about the black community to being something about police brutality, systemic racism. Like we have other issues than that. All right, drop the music.
Pretty white TT. Pretty white TT.
All right, let's take a second to thank all of our newest patrons. Joel S., thank you so much for becoming a patron. Timothy A., thank you so much for becoming a patron. Patrick S., thank you so much for becoming a patron. You too can join this uber elite group by going to patreon.com/the BPD show and becoming a patron. So this is what I need to happen. These are the action points. How do we fix this? One, we fix this by being all of the supporters of Bernie Sanders. You get it right. Yeah, you help him get it right. Because if we can't have the conversation about if we haven't mastered the conversation about both race and class, neither to the detriment of the other, then one, you need to go back and watch all of my videos. And then two, you need to come to the conversation, the national conversation, and you come correct. And you make sure that you're not buying into this idea that identity politics don't matter and that black folks should just line up because we like his policies. Yeah, no. You know, if Sanders was not getting if Sanders was not getting his language around the LGBTQ community right all this time, you better damn well believe that the LGBTQ community would be coming after him, and rightfully so. And for all of these commentators who are telling you, and I don't know which version I've recorded several times, so I don't know if I mentioned Kyle Kalinske at the top. But for any commentator who's telling you that identity politics don't matter, they are contributing to the victory for Donald Trump. Because you're not going to win without the black vote. You're not going to win without inroads into the Hispanic vote. You're not going to win without the LGBTQ vote. You're not going to win in this big tent coalition without addressing the issues of each and every one of them in the big tent. Nor should you want to. Nor should you want to. I said this on the special episode yesterday, the Tetris episode. You can go watch it. If it is the case, I'm actually going to an entirely different subject to make a point. I'm going to the subject of a homophobic tweet from a black preacher that I used to follow. I unfollowed him yesterday. And it was about America not being ready for Pete Buttigieg. Now, this is the type of progressive that I am. And you need to ask yourself the question, what the hell type of progressive are you? Because to me, if America's not ready for a gay president, that's not an excuse that I use to hide behind. I don't hide behind that excuse. I confront that excuse and I make America ready, or I do my part in making America ready. So if you think that identity politics is bad because it's going to help us lose the election, then ask yourself, what type of progressive are you? Are you the type of progressive who's going to hide behind that truth, that unfortunate and quite frankly, white supremacist truth about this country? Are you going to hide behind that? Or are you going to confront that, Kyle? Speaking of his debate with Charlie Kirk at Politicon, where he was so excited about the fact that, I don't do identity politics. Don't talk to me about black nothing. What we as voters and supporters and commentators and bloggers and vloggers, what we can do is get it right ourselves and then help the Sanders campaign get it right for once and for all, for the love of God. Let's get it right.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.